And now there are 7 different genomic changes for which one can have effective and regulatory agency approved drugs. And these have moved into clinical treatment. In order to be able to deploy these agents, one needs to undergo a rather comprehensive biomarker testing for these genomic changes for which there's effective targeted agents. And one of the things that I speak about is the proportion of people who get tested. We took a look at what was going on in the United States with Dr. Keel, and it was only about 10 to 25% in the U.S. In 2016 to 18. We've also had some information from the members of the International Association for the Study of Lung Cancer, where people who order the testing, and most of the people say they get it in non-squamous non-small cell lung cancer, but it's not really the real evidence of who actually get the test. It's just saying how many people say they ordered the test. And it was from people who responded to the IASLC questionnaire, so it's a biased group. Not enough people are getting tested, and we have broad efforts in the United States to try to deploy this. One of the other things that's a problem about the drug development is the costs and what they pay, what it costs to be able to deliver this care. And for part of this drug development, I took a look at how much it costs per month in the United States. And this just comes off of a drugs.com website. And the cost of the agent per month varies from $11,000 to $34,000. And then I also multiplied this by the progression-free survival. So you assume that they're getting treated for this. And the costs end up being per course between $200,000 to over $900,000. This isn't likely what the patients have to pay, but both for the societal costs as well as for our third-party payers, this is going to be a challenge to be able to maintain this. The second part of this challenge with going after these subsets, with EGFR mutations, depending on where you are in the world, is 15 to 30% of the lung cancer patients, and with ALK, it's 3 to 5%. But all the ones that I talked about there are about 1% of the patients or less. And when you take a look at the numbers of people with lung cancer in the U.S., there's about 150,000 deaths. And if you assume 2/3 of those would be eligible for treatment, that leaves about 1,000 people in our country. And if the costs are on the low end of those that I showed you, it's about $200,000 a year. So the total revenue, assuming everybody gets paid for all these things, is about $200 million. And, that may be okay, but that's under the most optimistic scenarios. And these drugs are very expensive to develop. And is that enough to sustain it? A, and B, are our regulatory groups going to be able to sustain this? The other piece of this is that one of the things that's very exciting about this is that our pharma companies are carrying out this drug development at a very rapid pace and are willing to go after these rare subsets, despite the challenges to the companies, which is a good thing. One of the things that and if you take home any message today, is that these patients need to have comprehensive biomarker testing. This is not being deployed in enough people to be able to get access to these drugs. It's important both for the patient's outcome as well as the ability for this to reach as many people as possible. And the other part that we'll be having some discussions is whether our worldwide health systems are going to be able to cover the costs of supplying these drugs. And how are we going to be able to do this with these these costly drugs that people are taking for, we hope, years. And will our third-party payers and governments be able to sustain this?